Attention, this video will have spoilers for Cyberpunk 2077, so if you have not played the game or finished it, please click off this video. Thank you. Cyberpunk 2077 has been one of the most anticipated games of the last decade, and in 2020 fashion, the launch of the game was a disaster and the days leading up to it. CD Projekt Red was understaffed and overworked and went back on their word about crunch time. Last gen performance was and still is, as of December 22nd, 2020, garbage, and was even lied about to be working surprisingly well. The game that I played felt unfinished, and it shouldn't have been released. It was promised to be the next generation of open world gaming, but what I got was not that.
Check ignition and may God's love be with you. This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade, and the papers want to know whose shirt you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door, and I'm floating in a most peculiar way, and the stars look very different today, for here am I sitting in a tin can.
Just for clarification, throughout this video, I'll be comparing Cyberpunk to Fallout New Vegas. So thank you to H Bomber Guy for the inspiration to make this video. Go check out his video on Fallout New Vegas if you haven't. Throughout my time in that city, it was beautiful, and at some points it felt like a thriving city, but for the most part, I felt as just a spectator in the city rather than being inside of it. The game has no random encounters when driving from point A to B, and ends up feeling like GTA, which is not a good thing in terms of game design. It feels like a roller coaster. Nakey Jakey, I think. You have to go out of your way to find quests, and the quests do not come to you, so it just feels like you're setting a waypoint on the map and just falling for the majority of the time. It makes the world feel like a slideshow of cool quests to do, and that's it. I never really got immersed to the point where I felt as if the city was alive. Don't get me wrong, the design of Night City is probably the best I've seen in a game, but we can all tell that's where the majority of the time went. There are rarely any activities you can do outside of quests, so it just feels like you're window shopping the possibilities that the world has to offer. They'll probably be added as DLC, but should have been in the main game. You can buy brain dances but not even play them. There are 0 mini games, and you can only experience things like racing in a quest line. The player's fun and engagement is limited to what quests you do and what they have to offer, and not while you're in free roam. For a game that has been declared as the next generation of open world gaming, it lacks the things that an old generation open world game has, and just ends up feeling really, really empty. Most places you can visit are locked behind quests, so you can't wander into a random building and encounter the quest. The game just flat out locks you from that area until you go to a certain location the game has already marked for you, and that quest takes you there. While as in New Vegas, the world is reactive to you, and that shows. There are many places you visit and many routes you can take to get to these places, from just going to the location or many different people taking you to it. The game is very connected and intertwined as an RPG should be, while Cyberpunk just feels like multiple straight lines heading in the same direction but never crossing.
You put your finest suit on, I paint my fingernails. Oh, we're going out in style, babe, and everything's on sale. We creep up on extinction, I pull your arms right in, I weep and say goodnight, love, while my organs pack it in. And here it is, our final night alive, and as the earth turns to the ground, oh girl, it's you that I lie with, as the atom bomb locks in. Oh, it's you I watch TV.
From the very start of the game, you're given choices from what your character looks like, to what their origin is, to what they specialize in. And let me tell you, most of this means nothing. The game makes you feel like you are given a lot of choice, but you really don't have a lot. Let me explain. From the 3 different life paths that you were given, all they really do is give you different starts to the game that really doesn't affect the rest of the story. From these different life paths are different dialogue options for the corresponding life path, but you hardly ever have these options, and when you do, they don't really affect story or quest at all. The same applies for your attributes and perks. They do give you special dialogue options as well, but hardly ever affect how quests turn out and do not affect the story. It's hard for these things to give the player control when even how quests turn out are meaningless. For example, in the Voodoo Boys questline, you are given an option to side with the Netwatch agent or the Voodoo Boys, and with either option, nothing happens. Even killing the Voodoo Boys. A main quest that gives you a major choice does not affect the ending of the game or is ever brought up again. While New Vegas is ready for whatever choice the player is ready to make, from certain characters dying to certain decisions, the world is reactive to you and what you do, and reward the player for the certain attributes they have invested in with more choices. But when you decide to murder all of the Voodoo Boys, no one says anything when you wander around Pacifica and no one tries to kill you. Now, it probably will be brought up in an expansion, but it's absurd to wait to see the outcome of your decisions in a future DLC. Also, CDPR made it feel through the countless videos and ads that we are inserting ourselves into V and becoming who we want to be, but it's not really the case. V has their own ambitions and aspirations that are already predetermined, and as a player, you can only alter this slightly. That leads me to my next point.
She said, I keep on running, and nothing works. I can't get away from you.
Now, it might seem like I'm shitting on this game, but I enjoyed my time with it. It's just that this game is more linear than you would have first imagined. Now, that wouldn't really matter if this game wasn't labeled as an RPG with many branching stories and decisions. While there are many decisions you can make, they don't have a lot of impact as previously stated, and ultimately have you end in one of 5 endings to the game. Now, you might think that that's a decent amount of endings, right? Wrong. More or less each ending hits the same notes and have you end up in the same position of dying or being dead. They basically feel like you're choosing an ending rather than the endings come to you through your decisions, if that makes sense. For Christ's sake, even the newest Call of Duty games have multiple endings. I think it's like 4, 3. Anyways, unlike Cyberpunk, The Witcher accounts for all your decisions made throughout the game, from side quest to main quest. Although there are 3 endings in The Witcher, they each have a different variation of the ending depending on the choices the player makes. This is not even a Cyberpunk, not even a slideshow to show you what your decisions did to Night City. Just the same 5 endings. Now it seems to me as if they're setting the game up for expansions to expand the story, as the ending is not really conclusive. But is the game really finished if that's the case? The main game should feel conclusive, but it's not. Another criticism that I have is that you can't even save Jackie, Evelyn, or T-Bug throughout the whole story. It would make sense in an RPG for you to be able to save them, although it might not be like the easiest decision or the easiest path to take. It should still be possible, but it's not. They all die in everyone's playthrough, and there's nothing you can do about it. The last thing I have to say about the story is that it was just good. Nothing outstanding, relatively groundbreaking, just good. Just another AAA story. And I guess that's why it was so disappointing.
Yeah. The world is so small till it ain't. Yeah. I'm building up a wall till it breaks.
In conclusion, this game really isn't an RPG. It's a single-player story game with some choices, but ultimately take you on the same journey. I do believe if you are a game designer and are looking to produce an RPG, look at Fallout New Vegas and Disco Elysium. They set the gold standard and everyone should follow. Overall, the game was enjoyable, but not what CDPR had made it seem. Or maybe that was just the hype. I think this just serves as a lesson not to, overhype a game and have high expectations. As a wise person once said, if you have low expectations, you can't be disappointed. Yoda, I think. I don't fucking know. Anyways, yeah, don't worry about it, guys. Don't be this Reddit comment, and don't, just know that there will be a game that's good as fuck one day, and that does exceed your expectations and hype. I don't know. And if Cyberpunk met your expectations, then by all means, you can enjoy the game. You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. But I don't mean this video as any sort of hate to CDPR. They worked their asses off to produce a game, and it was a game. So, you know, my fucking dog snoring in the back. Anyways, have a nice day, guys.